People think that Peter Griffin is bad, but he's like Mother Teresa compared to Lois. They say redheads are fiery, but this mama is nuclear. And everyone is in the danger zone. She's more grating than a block of cheese, with an equally stanky personality. Sure, we love her in our own way, but some of her actions are more questionable than R. Kelly's studio habits. If you're not wondering why Peter hasn't left his wife by the end of the video, then you might want to take a good long look in the mirror. When you think of a doting mom, you might think of Princess Diana or Angelina Jolie and her horde of adopted kids. When it comes to looking after little ones and really being their guiding light, their protector, their confidant, Lois Griffin couldn't do a worse job. Sure, she may try every now and then, but let's face it, she's not winning any awards for her parenting techniques. In Season 5's Peter's Two Dads, Lois gives Stewie a sharp smack on the rear after getting fed up with his behavior. The youngest Griffin breaks one of Lois's necklaces in a fit of rage, and Lois retaliates by striking her son. It might have been the thing to do decades ago, but everyone with a brain knows you can't hit kids these days. Although she's immediately remorseful, the damage is done. Stewie bursts into tears, and it doesn't end there. Eventually, the over-intelligent baby gets a taste for abuse and finds that he actually really likes being hit. So thanks to Mommy Dearest, Stewie starts to put himself in the line of fire. Does that sound like something a good mother would do? Sadly, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Lois is a regular Charles Bronson. There have been some really messed up episodes of Family Guy. There was the time that Meg almost hooked up with Quagmire, or the time Peter tried to, well, actually anything Peter tries to do. These guys get up to more random acts of weirdness than Joaquin Phoenix, and that's really saying something. One of the best storylines came in the form of Season 5's Bill and Peter's Bogus Journey. In a strange turn of events, Peter becomes good friends with former President Bill Clinton. Initially, Lois doesn't agree with their bromance and tries to put a stop to it. She tells her husband that Bill is a bad influence, but Peter won't listen. When she decides to cut out the middleman and go straight to Clinton himself, she gets more than she bargains for. An angry Lois ends up having some adult alone time with the guy she came to berate. That adds adultery to the already growing list of things that makes Lois such a terrible wife and human being. When Peter discovers the affair, he sleeps with Bill too, just to even the playing field. This episode is widely regarded as one of the best Family Guy outings, so bravo to the writers. Picture this. You come home after taking a shopping trip to stock up on groceries. The wife is in a little bit of a bad mood, so you want to lighten the load. After all, teamwork makes the dream work, right? The last thing you expect when you get home is an attack straight out of The Shining. Peter and Chris return from their thoughtful shopping jaunt in Season 12's vestigial Peter to a feral Lois. She's so mad that she leaps on Peter and savages him before throwing a can straight at Chris's head. That's one account of domestic battery and one account of child abuse. What's worse? And what's her problem anyway? Getting groceries is her thing and no one else's apparently. The Griffins are a dysfunctional family, but could you imagine this happening on The Simpsons? Marge might mumble and say, "Homer," in a stern voice, but actually body slamming her hubby to the ground, that's a no-go. Lois may be keen to assert her dominance, but she's also the first one to moan when things don't get done. You just can't win with a wife like that, who likes to lay down the law but not accept change. What's a guy to do when he's married to that amount of crazy? When it comes to making money, the Griffin family isn't exactly good at it. They're your average working class heroes muddling by with what they have. That doesn't mean they don't want to win big, just like the rest of us though. On a family trip, Peter has a bad reaction to a prune smoothie and nature calls. Desperate to relieve himself, they make an unplanned stop at a casino. Lois gets drawn into the bright lights when she asks an assistant for directions. When he asks her to stay a while and enjoy the games, she initially turns him down. Her resolve is short-lived, and it's not long before she's throwing dollars at dealers like they're strippers. Peter physically tears his wife away from the video poker, as she's become so addicted that she's a drooling mess. When they march out to the car park, it becomes clear they didn't leave with everything. Lois gambled the family car and lost it, so the Griffins are stuck in the middle of nowhere. What does she expect her kids to do, walk to New York? Given her reputation, we wouldn't put it past Lois. Worst of all, she gets this look on her face like she thinks Peter's the idiot. Moms and daughters usually have a bond that's unbreakable, one that lives on forever. Unfortunately for Meg, her relationship with Lois is like a rickety bridge on a windy day. Nothing is stable and you're bound to fall through the cracks to certain doom. Her parents really don't seem to like her, so it's not all Lois's fault. Peter can't stand Meg either, but shouldn't Lois have her daughter's back? She certainly doesn't in the Season 8 episode when she goes after Meg's boyfriend. Jealous that her teenager is getting all the attention from Anthony, Lois hatches a duplicitous plan. After giving the young buck a creepy schedule of Peter's work hours, she kicks Meg out of the house. This gives her an opportunity to make a move on Anthony, who's totally into it. That's when Meg walks back in, seeing everything, and goes on to be absolutely devastated. Lois isn't even that apologetic, telling her kid that if she really wanted her boyfriend, she could have him. What kind of a mother does that? What does Peter think of this Mrs. Robinson type situation? Well, probably not a lot, seeing as he hates Meg, but it's still a hugely problematic situation that can't be ignored, at least not in normal households. One of the best things about the show is its ability to take aim at famous people in an endearing way. Having the late Batman actor Adam West as the mayor is just a stroke of genius. Several storylines feature him, and he adds something extra to every episode that he's in. In Season 5's It Takes a Village Idiot and I Married One, Lois decides she doesn't like the way the town is ran. She discovers the mayor sanctioned the dumping of waste in the local river and isn't pleased. When she asks him to cut it out, he turns her down, so she challenges him. After becoming a politician, Lois soon gets a taste for the high life. It's not long before she turns into the very thing she detested about Mayor West. She's taking on bribes, dumping waste in the river herself, and dipping into tax funds to buy shiny new handbags. Power really does get to some people in the worst way. And Lois is as corrupt as they come. Making a better future for her kids and generations to come just isn't as important to her as that Birkin purse. We'd love to say that politicians don't do things like this in real life, but that would be a big fat lie. We've all been in a store before and wanted something that we couldn't afford. Most of us just wish that we'll marry into some money one fine day and get on with our lives. However, in the world of cartoons, things go down a little differently. One day Lois is out grocery shopping when she realizes she's short on cash. Not wanting to leave a precious ham behind, she pretends to return it to the meat department. Instead, she puts it in her purse and leaves. Excited from the adrenaline rush and the thrill of doing something naughty, the mom of three soon becomes addicted. Just like her gambling problem, things get quickly out of hand. It starts with a ham but ends in chaos. She ransacks a clothing shop, steals some new china, a soccer horn, and even a Matisse. Peter has no idea what's going on, but Brian sniffs out the issue. Lois recognizes that she's out of her depth, which is a small blessing, but it's not enough. When she winds up in court, she even steals the judge's gavel. What sort of example does this debauchery set for the kids? And more importantly, what does it say about Lois's character? This woman needs help. Now, a lot of people go on to change careers as they get older. If you're part of an established couple, then it could have an impact on your relationship. There's a lot to think about, like the financial side, the hours, and in Peter's case, the worry about his wife's pill addiction. When Lois uses her good looks to become a model, things change in a huge way. Her confidence goes through the roof, but it's not long before her agent hands her diet pills to keep her on top. At first, Peter is thrilled with Lois's new look, which involves not wearing much of anything. It all seems great until he gets incredibly jealous of the men staring at his wife constantly. Defiant, Lois decides she'll do anything to become the next Kate Moss, Peter be damned. Meg tells her mom that she's lowering herself, but of course that doesn't do any good. Does anybody ever listen to Meg? In the drop of a hat, Lois is strung out on pills and living it up, staying out all night with her new model friends and leaving the kids alone. And still, Peter didn't file the divorce papers. Lois is just lucky he's stupid. Everyone knows that young people make stupid mistakes. We've all had our fair share of bad haircuts or rechewed gum that was on the bottom of the cafeteria table, right? Just us then? Anyway, as you might expect, Lois's mistakes aren't that simple. In one episode, Chris is going through a really hard time and lapses into catatonic state. Peter and Lois try everything to get him to snap out of it, but nothing works. Even physically attacking him and breaking his nose doesn't make him flinch. In a desperate attempt to help her son, Lois makes a shock confession. She whispers her tale of woe into the unsuspecting teen's ear, telling him that she hit a jaywalker in 2002. Lois said she looked old, but the lady in question was only 51. Apparently, it was such a tragedy that it had a lasting impact on Lois, who attributes her talkative behavior to PTSD. She finishes up this bizarre anecdote by telling Chris every mom has done something similar. That's not terrifying or anything. In fairness to Lois, she does keep him loaded with ginger ale. It's the small kindnesses that count, right? He certainly won't be getting any big ones from this gal. Remember way back when Justin Bieber didn't look like Billy from Stranger Things? He was still a kid crooning out songs like The Insufferable Baby. Lest we forget that Christmas song too. Ugh, even thinking about that will make your ears bleed. For some unknown reason, The Biebs remains a hot property. In season 11 episode, Lois sets her sights on the young pop star, who's still in his mid-teens. Trying to prove that she's young and has some life in her yet, Mrs. Griffin joins a bunch of teens at a Bieber concert. Peter's devastated as he watches his wife on TV making a fool out of herself, so storms to the venue. Meanwhile, Lois struts her stuff straight into Justin's dressing room and throws herself at him. As she's trying to take his pants off, Lois comes in and beats the singer to a pulp. It was the cartoon version of Heavenly Retribution. Sure, it all started when Peter called Lois an old plow horse, but what kind of wife goes out to seduce a pop star after every argument? There's nothing faithful about Lois Griffin, folks, that's for certain. She might be way prettier than Peter, but she's got an evil mean streak. How many people can say their moms have starred in adult movies? Besides Pamela Anderson's kids, that is. It's not something anyone wants to think about, so let's hope the only home movies our parents have are baby videos. In season 9, Lois gets ousted from her local church after the minister discovers she starred in an adult caper during her college days. Lois is absolutely distraught when she's shunned by the community, who all seem to think like she's the devil incarnate. So how does she decide to win them back? By marching right into the building, comparing herself to Mary Magdalene, and treating them all to a private viewing of the movie. Incredibly, it works well, and everyone loves her again. While no one should be treated badly because of her kinks and quirks, you can't deny that this is a risky move. For a start, would Peter really want the entire town to see his wife doing some seriously unholy things? What about the kids? Don't they get teased enough as it is? Oh, Lois, you're about as selfish as they come. Oh, Lord, that's about the wrong turn of phrase for this. Let's swiftly move on and pretend like this never happened, okay? Quagmire is a special character who undeniably pushes the envelope when it comes to what's acceptable. Actually, he doesn't just push the envelope, he sends it via 24-hour courier. There's really nothing about his behavior that's okay, but we can't deny that he's wonderfully entertaining. In season 5, we're treated to a what-if scenario. Peter accidentally manages to change the timeline after he and Brian go back to 1984. When they return, Lois is married to Quagmire. It's weird seeing her with their creepy BFF, but it also strangely works. Peter is married to actress Molly Ringwald, so it's not like he's sad and alone. This is an alternate reality and not strictly something Lois has done on purpose, so she can't entirely be blamed. We do love throwing the hammer down on her actions, though. Plus, let's face it, anyone that willingly marries Quagmire can't be right in the head. You've got to have some serious deficiencies to spend your life with that deviant. It's a super fun episode to watch in any case, kind of like seeing all your weirdest fantasies come to life right in front of your eyes. Oh, aren't cartoons great? They're the universal language of crazy, and we dig it. Every mom has a hobby, even if it's kicking back and watching Netflix with a glass of vino. Some make puzzles, or some spend their time with friends. Lois probably likes to craft a little too, but back in season 11, it's all about one particular family project, making meth. The entire Griffin clan start cooking the drug in a dilapidated farmhouse, making more money than they know what to do with. Everyone is involved besides Brian, who can't understand what's going on. It turns out that the family business is responsible for pushing drugs into Quahog. It even ends up on the news, where Trisha is so tweaked off the stuff that she can barely talk. We don't need to tell you how terrible this is, and if we do, then well, we'll pray for you. Sure, the Griffins end up with a lot of disposable cash, but won't someone think of the children? That's no way to live, and if anyone should be the voice of reason, it's the matriarch. Sadly for the fam, they just got Lois, and she's not about to be the one to end such a profitable biz. At least not without some persuasion, anyway. What a way to live. She ought to be ashamed. Ashamed! On the list of what not to do to your husband, emasculating them is probably high up there. No one wants to feel like they're not treated equally in any relationship, especially Peter. He likes to think he's in control, which he definitely is not. In one of the early seasons, it's made clear that Lois has a very strong appetite in the bedroom, and she isn't afraid to let Peter know it. Lois forces herself on her husband multiple times, and he has no choice but to obey. That's problematic on so many levels that we can't even begin to explain. Peter is so traumatized by his experience that he confides in Brian, weeping that Lois was the man last night. It might work in some relationships, but it's not something that Peter's into. It's not the only episode that Lois's aggressive, intimate behavior is referenced either. This woman is a menace to society. She may look like Peter's better half, but she's the lowest of the lowest. What can we say? We just love to play on words. At least we don't have an assortment of addictions, cook meth, or force our significant others into compromising positions, though. We can hold our heads up high. Good job, everybody. This final entry is a doozy. It really encapsulates how terrible Lois is as a person. We've seen a lot of badness, but what about encouraging your child, your only daughter, to off herself? Yeah, that's on a whole other level. Yes, Peter doesn't really like Meg, but he has shown moments of tenderness. Who really wants a wife that actively tries to throw kids into early graves? Not cool, Lois, not cool. In season 11's episode, Lois comes out of her shell. Meg is going through another crisis. This teen is no stranger to meltdowns of varying kinds, so it's hardly surprising. Clearly fed up with her daughter's BS, Lois throws her a Sylvia Plath book and a bottle of sleeping pills. After she parts with the line, "Whatever happens, happens," Meg decides to take them. Only they've been swapped out by Sheldon and our Alka-Seltzer. She does a lot of burping, but survives, and that's a bonus. Moms and wives are supposed to be loving, caring, not criminally insane. Lois Griffin is the epitome of badness, like Ozzy Osbourne in his bad eating days. Only less down with the kids. If anyone needs some serious psychiatric help, it's this redheaded mama. Yeah, let's throw Peter in there too for sticking this long with her. If we had to pick a favorite, it'd definitely be the Justin Bieber scenario. Which entry tickled your fancy? Do you have a Lois moment that's worse than these? Sound off below, cartoon lovers. Before you go, be sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a big thumbs up. We just need the validation. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.